Hey guys, it's K-Dan here. By the way, say hello to Bunger.
Bunger!
If you guys play Bug Snacks, you know who Bunger is. This is dev vlog number 1 video. I just wanted to talk about what SpiceJack is, how we got here where we are right now. Just finished conducting a really successful playtest with a couple of you guys who might be watching this video today. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about it. SpiceJack is a variant of Blackjack, but you get to actually play your chilies, who would give you heat. You want to add up those numbers to be as close to 21 as possible. Your opponent's trying to do the same thing. So you're playing things that maybe could disrupt your opponent. Maybe you have like this alternative win condition that you could try to achieve. How it started, originally it actually came from a prototype game that I made for my wife. I designed this really small game that took a lot of inspirations from Marvel Snap. It's a mobile game that I used to play, and made a game where this random win condition would show up, and we're playing 3 different cards. They all have different numbers. It's just 5, 3, and a 1 or something like that. And the win condition would say whoever has the most odd numbered cards wins. It was just like a quick game that I made, and it was really fun. Fast forward, I decided to make a game off of that game, and something that was really easy to play and set up. Previously, I have designed some deck building games in the past, and they were really complex. They were like super in-depth, but it took like 20 minutes to set up the game. It was just a lot to explain to people when they were trying to learn how to play it for the first time. So the first ever prototype is actually right here. I have these temp art from a game that I just took, and I was like, I just need to make something, and then I'm gonna put it on paper. So as you can see, this is temp art right here in the middle, not my IP, not my property. So this is only for prototype. You have a number up here that shows this unit's power, and at the time it was called power. And you have the ability. So what would basically happen is a location, in this case it's this one right here, another temp art. Each player plays 3 things, and you add up the number. Whoever is closest to that wins. And it started out like that. So I had a bunch of different cards. Oh, I'm holding it upside down. A lot of different cards, and I tried out this prototype with my friends and also my wife as well. And the initial impression and reaction, they really liked it. They actually really liked it, and I thought it was super fun, but there were obviously a lot of problems with the game as well. I wanted to incorporate drafting elements into the game at first. Tried it out. Turns out it's really difficult if you give them like these like tokens you have to keep track of. These are fish rocks you can buy from Amazon. Big lesson learned is try not to overcomplicate your game or introduce new mechanics and elements and ideas into your game if it does nothing but just adds more complexity. It was so much harder to look at 5 cards and be like, okay, this costs 3, this costs 2, this costs 1. I'm gonna take this one and this one because they all cost 6 and I have 6 gold. Rather than that, just let your player draw 5 cards. It's so much easier that way. Now, with that comes a downside of all of your cards, if they don't have any cost, they have to have similar level of power. So that means all their abilities have to be roughly around the same in terms of like effectiveness, right? You can't have a card that says draw a card and this other card that says draw 2 cards. You're always going to want to pick the one that's drawing you 2 cards. So that leaves you with this challenge of having to design cards with limited amount of design space that's given to you. But I thought that was worth it, to get rid of a physical resource that you have to keep track of and toss it in between. So I got rid of the cost, and that was actually a good decision in the end. Second version of the prototype is when I decided on the theme of the game. SpiceJack was actually not the first name that I had. It was called Super Chili Royale. Very long, very cheesy, but also very wacky. It fit the art style of the game. I noticed that when players were playing, they were often taking cards that had higher power. And if you think about the word power, usually in games and in just life, higher power is always better. My family, we went out to eat dinner one night, and we sat down, and I ordered something really spicy. It was like a really spicy seafood dish or something. I came over, I had this bite, and I had this like moment of realization. Heat can be the unit of measurement that I've been looking for, because you can make a dish really spicy, But if it's too spicy, then you can't eat it. I thought about each of these units potentially becoming chilies instead. As you can see, I have pretty much one-to-one converted the images, the power, the abilities, but just different themed. And immediately, when I playtested with this version of the game, it resonated with the players so much faster because now they understood, oh, this chili is hotter, it gives you more heat right off the bat, but the ability is bad. Or this chili is a little bit, it has a slow kick to it, but it will kick in and cause massive damage. And also, it didn't actually start with just chilies. I actually wanted to make it kind of like a cooking themed, in general, cooking themed game. How can I draw human beings or like ingredients and make sure that they're all feeling like they're in the same like universe? And it was just really hard to do that. I started drawing on my iPad that my wife gifted me, and I was doubting myself. Like, I don't think I can draw these characters that feel like they're all in the same universe. One time I remember one of her drawings for my game. It was a chili with eyes on it. And I got inspired by that. I was like, man, like what if I take that one character but then create different versions of that character? So I'll have a base thing that can always duplicate and then just dress it up with different outfits or use the same color palette to make different versions of it. So I decided to try it out, and instantly it was a success. So I was able to make lots of different versions of that base chili. So you got like Chaos Chili, Astral Chili, you got Chili Frog. These are not even really chilies, it's just taking chili and then another thing that is in the world and then just like mashing them together. But the ideas that came out of these were endless. I could make like anything I wanted, like right there, a flower chili. I could just make a flower chili. I would start drawing it. And the cool thing about that was, first of all, the ideas came from the thematic design. Oftentimes I will just draw a frog chili first without thinking about the abilities. And then after I'm done with the art, I'll start to brainstorm like, what would a chili frog do in this game? Well, frogs like to hop around, right? So Chili Frog ended up becoming a chili that swaps to two positions of your opponent's chilies. This is a really popular one, Chili Dragon. It's just a dragon, but it has a color palette of a chili, of red and green. And when I did this, I started thinking about what could Chili Dragon do? And it's a kind of like a board wipe for your opponent and yourself. It's very dangerous. It's big and it's dangerous. A lot of design ideas actually came from the thematic ideas first. And I think when you're designing your own game, you want to go back and forth from design to thematic, and they should inspire each other. And trying to look for like the most elegant solutions for your design while also borrowing ideas from your thematic to complete your goal. I think that's what you want to do. You might remember these. These were judges. These were like the locations that you as a cook are now using chilies to make a spicy dish for. So these judges had a specific heat amount that they wanted. Originally, you were allowed to go over. As long as you were closer to this number than your opponent, you would win. One day, I was thinking about what should the name of this game be, and Super Chili Royale just didn't cut it for me. I started thinking about different things, and I realized Blackjack is actually a game that a lot of people might understand how to play already, and I could borrow that same number that's really popular, the 21 number that a lot of people know, and apply it to this game, and actually have every judge basically have 21 requirements. And I even took that further and was like, you know what, you actually never want to go over 21. You're gonna bust if you go over 21. And it ended up adding this element of tension a little bit. Now both players are not just trying to get close, they're also trying to greed a little bit. Also have this pressure of like, what if I get to 21 and your opponent actually gives you one heat and now you're gonna bust. Now definitely it does add this like frustration if you do lose because you overheated, and I will talk about what I did with that problem. I introduced SpiceJack. So SpiceJack, and back then they were actually like this, and this was an old version of the SpiceJack where it was actually similar to what it does now, but it would basically give the winner of the round an advantage. So the game was actually not a best of one game, but rather it was actually best of 5. And the first to 3 wins 1. You were actually playing the chilies and then getting them back and playing the same chilies again. and it ended up being really slow, and I thought it was just much better to have a one game and then just reset, play a different game instead. And then I realized SpiceJack, the name SpiceJack, by the way, is when this kind of came together. Spice is obviously the word spicy, spice, things like that. I took the blackjack's jack part and then put it together with spice, and it became a thing that you could just kind of say really quickly, SpiceJack. But it also, I needed something in the game to represent the name SpiceJack, right? So I thought of maybe like primordial fire or something like that, that created all these chilies and magically like made them come to life. But I realized that SpiceJack is something that should be there to spice up the game. At the end of turn 2, the SpiceJack of that round would flip over, much like these judges that sometimes had these end of turn 2 round effects. Now, you are not just focusing on your own goal and how you can get to 21, but you're trying to get information about what your opponent has and potentially how that could screw your board over as well. And there's this interaction that gets put there with the SpiceJack, and that's exactly what I wanted it to do. It spiced up the game. And some of you may have played this version currently on Tabletop Simulator. It's still on Steam Workshop, so if you want to go play it, feel free to check it out. Make sure to grab someone from the SpiceJack community to play with you, because there's a lot of people who are on there who would be willing to get a game with you right now. And that's sort of like the origin story of how SpiceJack became to be. Steps going forward from here, I'm going to be adding new chilies into the game regularly. I want to make sure that we have a lot of different chilies in the game that allows you to be more creative, more interactive with your opponent. Every time you play a new game of SpiceJack, you should feel like there's a different way to play every time. And I think that's the kind of feeling that I want to get from this game. I will host weekly playtest sessions with people. And if you have any feedback for the game, I would really appreciate it if you could leave it in the feedback channel in the server. And if you have any ability ideas or any references and things like that, I would love to hear those too. Lastly, thank you so much for watching this video. I know this is the first video for this channel. Expect these videos regularly. I'm going to continue to upload these onto these channels so I could talk about certain design elements and what I like about them. Any updates and changes, I'll talk about those here too. But yeah, mostly it's just I want to build a better game with you guys, and if I can see you guys having fun playing this game, that brings me a lot of joy. So I'll just continue to do that. So yeah, thanks so much again for watching all this way through, and I'm gonna stop the recording before it gets way too long. All right, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.